Have you noticed that the longer you wait to feel ready, the less you actually do? Most people think you need to feel motivated before taking action. But what if the opposite is true? Motivation doesn't come before action. It comes after you. Start. If you keep waiting, life will slip away while you watch others achieve what you want. You know what you need to do. You have a plan and clarity, yet you're still standing still. Days and weeks pass, yet your goals, projects, and plans remain untouched. You think you lack motivation or inspiration, but the truth you're afraid to admit is this: motivation is the result of action, not its cause. Don't wait to get started. The main trap of the mind is believing you have to be ready before you act. Winners are those who make decisions even when they're afraid, even when they have doubts, even without clarity. Movement breeds confidence, understanding, and motivation. I've seen it hundreds of times. Entrepreneurs who built their businesses from scratch, salespeople who conquered their fears, and myself. I used to believe inspiration was necessary to write. I sat and waited for it in vain. Everything changed when I forced myself to write without mood, without ideas, simply because I had to. The first page was bad, the second was slightly better, but on the third, everything fell into place. That is the truth. Action opens the way. The illusion of motivation destroys talent. Smart, capable people with amazing ideas spend their lives waiting for the right moment. But there is no perfect moment. The world won't stop so you can feel ready. Either you act or you watch others live the life you dreamed of. Have you ever stopped because you didn't feel confident about starting something new? Listen, confidence is the result of action. It's not given, it's created. Just as muscles grow from effort, confidence appears when you act in the face of uncertainty. How many times have you put off taking a step, thinking you needed to learn a little more? How many opportunities have you missed because you were waiting for the right time? And what has changed after all these weeks and months? If you're like most people, nothing, because time does not heal inaction. It only deepens regret. Thomas Edison didn't wait for inspiration to invent the light bulb. He made thousands of mistakes before he succeeded. Henry Ford began manufacturing cars when no one believed in that market. He had no guarantees, only a decision. These people were just like you, neither gods nor geniuses. They simply chose to act. This brings me to a question you may not like. How many times have you used reflection as an excuse? How many times have you called your inaction planning? Thinking without acting is like rowing on dry land. You get tired, but you don't move. A salesperson who's afraid to make the first call drowns in fear, but as soon as they pick up the phone, something special happens. The first call is terrible, the second is tolerable. On the third, they begin to believe they're capable, and they really are, because they stop being a hostage to their emotions and become the captain of their actions. If you wait until you're ready, you'll never get there. The path only appears after the decision, not before. It's like walking through fog. You only see the next step after you've taken the previous one. If you stand still and try to imagine the end result, your anxiety only grows. But when you move despite your fear, the fog begins to dissipate. Modern psychology confirms this. Neuroscience shows that small, purposeful actions activate the areas of the brain responsible for motivation. In other words, the brain starts working only after the first step. The mind responds to movement with new movement. This is physiology. This is fact. This can be measured. So stop asking yourself if you're ready. Stop waiting for motivation to strike like lightning. It won't come. You must light that spark yourself. And you do it in the simplest way possible. Take the first step. Today, right now, at this very moment, what can you do? Send a letter, make a phone call, devote 10 minutes of complete concentration. You don't have to change the whole world. You just need to prove to yourself that you are taking action. And after that, the world will begin to change because of you. Fear is the greatest manipulator. It doesn't shout, it whispers. It pretends to be logic. It convinces you with phrases like, "It's not the right time yet. You need to prepare better." Or, "What if everything goes wrong?" And you believe it, you wait, and without noticing, you trade your freedom for the illusion of security. The problem isn't that you're afraid to be afraid of everything. The problem is that you obey fear, and it lies convincingly. In 9 out of 10 cases, fear isn't related to reality, it's related to imagination. You aren't afraid of what has already happened. You're afraid of what might happen. Rejection, disgrace, failure, losing everything, being condemned. But if I ask you, how many times has the thing you feared most actually happened? And if it did happen, did you die from it, or did you survive? Fear is hypnotic. It exaggerates consequences and diminishes your courage. But there's an antidote: conscious action in the face of fear. When you move toward what frightens you, fear loses its power. It sounds paradoxical, but it's the most practical truth in my life. Look at Edwin S. Barnes, an ordinary man, no money, no connections, just an obsession with working with Thomas Edison. Fear could have stopped him. He could have decided it was ridiculous to ask the greatest inventor of the century to partner with him, but he didn't give up. He acted without an invitation, without guarantees. He got on a freight car and traveled thousands of miles to knock on Edison's door. He was met with distrust and given the simplest job, but he stayed, worked, and persevered. Many years later, when Edison needed someone to lead a new project, it was Barnes who came forward and took the position. He fulfilled his dream not because he was the most talented, but because he acted while others only dreamed. How many opportunities have you missed out on because you were afraid of looking foolish? How many times have you thought, what if it doesn't work out? And use that as an excuse not to try. You tell yourself that you're being prudent, but in reality, you're being controlled by an invisible enemy: fear. You don't have to conquer fear to start acting. You need to ignore it and move forward, no matter what. With each repetition of this choice, fear becomes weaker. After all, the human brain learns through repetition. Every time you bravely face your fear, it becomes smaller, and your body remembers, I survived. Modern psychology proves that anticipating fear is worse than the event itself. Emotional tension is stronger before than during. You suffer twice. But when you act, you eliminate that double suffering. You pull fear out of the world of fantasy and bring it into reality, where it's not nearly as scary as it seemed. I faced this silent poison myself when Andrew Carnegie challenged me to spend over 20 years studying the most successful people in history, with no guarantee of results, publication, or recognition. Fear gripped me and whispered that it was madness. It insisted that no one would take it seriously, that I was wasting the best years of my life. But I agreed anyway, and that decision, made with a trembling heart, completely changed my destiny. Fear is a shadow that appears when you approach the light. And do you know how shadows disappear? Through movement. Think about what you're avoiding because of fear: a project, a conversation, a choice. Now imagine facing it. What's the worst that could happen? Loss of money, rejection, shame. Now ask yourself, can I handle it if it happens? In most cases, the answer is yes. You're not as weak as you think. You're much stronger than you can imagine, but you'll only find out by moving forward. Don't wait for fear to disappear. Don't try to get rid of it before you act. Act with fear. Act despite your fear, because success awaits you behind that invisible wall that only crumbles when you approach it. Take the first step, and it will crack. Take another, and it will collapse. And you'll realize that the main obstacle was yourself. How many times have you said to yourself, I'll start tomorrow, and tomorrow became Monday, then next month, then when you had time, and suddenly a whole year has passed, and you're in the same place, now with the burden of another unfulfilled promise. This is how procrastination destroys lives, quietly, like rust eating away at dreams and the soul. It doesn't knock on the door. It disguises itself as good intentions, convincing you that you need more time, energy, knowledge. It suggests that now isn't the right moment, and you believe it, because it sounds logical, but it's a trap. Procrastination feeds on perfectionism. The more you strive for perfection, the longer you put off what's most important. You say you haven't started because you want to do everything perfectly, but in reality, you're just afraid to start small, afraid to make mistakes, afraid to look foolish. So you procrastinate, deceive yourself, get distracted, and time marches on relentlessly. It doesn't wait for you to gather your courage or finish your plan. Your idea may be worth about $4 million, and your plan may be worked out in detail. But if you don't act, none of that matters. You may hold the key to success in your hands, but if you don't turn it, you'll remain outside. Imperfect action always beats perfect intention. You don't need to start right, you just need to start. And if it's too hard, use the simple and powerful 5-minute rule. Tell yourself you'll devote just 5 minutes to the task. Just 5. It's so little that your brain doesn't resist, but it's enough to get you started. Once you start, something powerful happens. You get into the flow, inertia disappears, and your brain releases dopamine just for getting started. Suddenly you're immersed in the process and begin to feel engaged. What once seemed impossible begins to take shape, because motivation comes after action. This technique has saved me more than once. At one point, I couldn't bring myself to start writing an important chapter of a book. Fear, pressure, and expectations held me back until I made a decision. Today I'll write for just 5 minutes. I put a sheet of paper in the typewriter and typed. I didn't like it. Then I wrote some more, and some more. 2 hours passed, not because I was waiting for inspiration, but because I took the first step. Every time you procrastinate, you train your brain to avoid things. But on the flip side, even a small action trains you to act. But it's not enough just to act. You need to secure your environment. Today's world is designed to steal your attention. Social media, notifications, short videos, endless entertainment. If you don't take control of your space, it will control you. Clutter around you means clutter in your head. Having your phone nearby is like trying to write poetry at a rock concert. It's impossible. You need rituals. Turn off distractions. Choose a time, act with intention, and set deadlines. Move the task from someday to by such and such a date. The human brain respects deadlines, and even more so, external pressure. Tell a loved one what you'll do and when. This creates accountability. You won't want to let them down. Think about Helen Keller, deaf and blind from early childhood, waiting for inspiration to learn to read with her hands. These people threw themselves into chaos, pain, and uncertainty and prevailed because they understood that time doesn't spare those who wait. It rewards those who act. Stop for a moment and look at your life. How many things have you put off in recent months, and what has that led to? Today you have a simple task. Choose one thing you've been postponing for days, weeks, or even years, and devote just 5 minutes to it. 5 minutes can break the vicious cycle, spark change, and give you back your freedom, because the first step changes everything. The difference between an ordinary life and an extraordinary one isn't talent or luck. It's who decides to start even when they don't feel ready. Discipline is the greatest manifestation of self-love. It's not about strictness, punishment, or suffering. It's about respecting your time, your goals, and your life. It's a quiet promise you make to yourself every day, not in moments of inspiration, but especially when you don't feel like it. Most people act on their mood. If they're motivated, they do something. If not, they wait. But that life is an endless roller coaster. Motivation is capricious. It comes when it wants and disappears at the crucial moment. Discipline, on the other hand, is a choice, a structure, and action without compromise. All the great people I've known, talked to, and studied for decades had one thing in common. They set rules for themselves and strictly adhered to them. They knew life rewards not those who do a lot from time to time, but those who do enough every day. I learned this from my own experience. There was a period when bills were piling up, projects were stalled, and my mind was in complete disarray. I woke up late, skipped meals, started things, and didn't finish them. Then I realized the problem wasn't my abilities, it was my lack of discipline. I made a simple but decisive decision. I would wake up at the same time every day, start with one specific task, and not begin a new one until I'd finished the previous, and then everything started to change. Progress doesn't come through inspiration. It's born from repeating the same actions until they become an unshakable habit. You may think you lack discipline, but discipline isn't a gift. It's a muscle that grows when you train it. You don't need huge productivity. Marathons. Start small, get up on time, keep your word, finish what you start, resist the urge to give up. Every time you silently keep a promise to yourself, you build not just a goal, but trust in yourself. And that trust is the foundation of any achievement. I've known brilliant people whose ideas never left the page because they lacked consistency. One was brilliant and incredibly creative, but constantly jumped from idea to idea without finishing any of them. Each time a new project or passion appeared. In the end, he accumulated a pile of notes and plans but built nothing. His talent was destroyed by inconsistency. This isn't uncommon. How many people do you know who have potential but never reach the finish line? Discipline is what separates dreamers from those who make dreams come true. It's not about greatness. It's about showing up. Show up for training, even if you're tired. Show up for meetings, even if you don't feel like it. Show up for yourself, even if no one's watching. Want to achieve something big? Start by winning small daily battles. Resist the urge to sleep 5 more minutes or check your phone every time you get a notification. Overcome the impulse to start and then quit. If you practice this, the impossible will become part of your nature. You won't struggle to take action. You'll act because it's your essence. Discipline shapes you. It gives you direction and, over time, brings what motivation never can. It's not about talent, it's about dedication, and dedication shows up in the silent decisions you make when no one's watching. At the end of the day, it's not about motivation. It's about whether you'll do what needs doing even without desire. If your answer is yes, nothing will stop you. Acting without desire is what separates dreamers from winners. Discipline is an invisible force that shapes destinies. No matter how ready you are or how much you want it, what matters is what you do again and again, especially on days when you want to give up. Remember, calm consistency always wins over loud intentions. And if you really want to grow, the next step is already right there. The video you're watching now will help you climb one step higher. It will challenge you to become 1% better every day, and those small improvements day after day turn into a whole new life. Thank you for being with me. See you in the next video.